Hello guys, so today we're going to be doing a Raspberry Pi 3 Model B setup. Very simple one with the little screen and everything. So beforehand I'd already flashed the OS onto this 32 gig micro SD card. We're going to be using this as a Retropie setup. So if you need a little tutorial video on how to do that, it only takes about 5 minutes. It's pretty easy peasy to do. And we'll just put that aside. And we got a couple of heat sinks. These are just some simple aluminum ones. If you want to get fancy, you can get some copper ones that are to the same size. As we know, copper is a bit better at dispersing heat, but the aluminum ones will work just fine for what I needed to do. And here I got a little micro keyboard. It's just wireless and just powered with like a pair of AAA batteries. Nice little clicky buttons here and a little weird touchpad. It works for what you need to do, especially if you don't want to have to get out a full-size keyboard. You just want to be able to input a couple command lines, and there's the little part that makes it wireless, and a little extension cord there. But we'll keep that all together because we don't want to lose it. Losing any of those parts would not be good, so we'll just snap it all back into place. Not too bad. It was about 11 bucks. And one of the other parts I got, here we have my little power plug here. You can just plug that into any USB for power, and there's the little wall part and a nice clicky power on and off switch. I like that. And I'll just close that up. And then kind of went all out for a pretty decent control. I got the Super Nintendo replica, the iBuffalo one. So far I like it. It's D-pad's a little higher up than that of the original Super Nintendos, but the shoulder buttons are nice, and it's a decent feel. Feels pretty decent in the hand. Just much similar. It's very similar as far as like doing precision moves to that of the Super Nintendo one. And here I got the 7-inch touch display. And I got this one because it had the fewest compatibility issues with working. Like it's a very simple board to use with your Raspberry Pi. So it is a little 7-inch here. We're just going to open it up. And I did test it out to make sure that it was functioning, so it does work. And that's just a little protective film on top of it. It's not scratched up or anything. So we're going to compare it to a few things we got sitting around. So what other screens do we have around here? Oh, we got a Pocket Game Boy. Yep. And we got PSP. The viewing size is about the same size as the whole PSP. Very similar. And how about a Vita? I think we got a Vita over here. Yep. So kind of gives you a scale of like your viewing area to those consoles. But a DS, all those smudgy fingerprints on that DS. Yes. And what I found the screen similar to as far as size is that of the Switch. So here's my Switch. And I can imagine someone be able to make like a really neat little homebrew kind of like parody Switch with the screen and a Raspberry Pi board. That'd be kind of neat. Be able to mount controllers onto the side of it. But not me. I'm just doing a very, very simple setup here today. So finally, it's compare it to that of the iPad. So that's just a standard iPad Air. So yeah, so it's gonna be a pretty good setup here. So let's get right into putting our screen board on. So we're gonna pop that open because we need it for putting our ribbon here. That's not the right term, but that's what I call it. So we're going to mount that in and make sure that it sits correctly. So it's just going to go straight over. So if you notice, it's going to go under the board. And And when you do these are a little tricky to do. You want to make sure that all the exposed wires make contact with each of the pins and that you get it all snapped evenly into place. If you power on your Raspberry Pi and the screen only shows a bunch of streaking lines, that just means that something's not set right. It doesn't mean like it's seated right. So you just need to, nothing's broken, you just need to take the time to reseat it. So we got that. And we're nice and even, we're good. So we're going to flip it over. And there we go. So we're also going to need to put on this part here. That's for the, I believe the touch screen functionality, which I'm not even really going to do anything with it. But you never know, so we might as well hook it up because there's a spot to hook it up. So we're going to mount these. Screws on. So these are raised because the board gets mounted right on top of it. So we're just going to do them finger tight and then just tighten it up a little bit once everything's in place. And when you're touching electronic boards, you always want to touch the edges. You don't want to make contact with the middle or anything like that. So I'm trying to be extra careful to make sure that I'm not touching the board excessively. So if you notice that there's a little kink there, it's because earlier I did test it. Strangely enough, there was already a kink on it, so this might have been a return screen, but it works fine, so it is what it is. So there we go. And we're just going to line it up. And it goes under, and you just need to get it to go under. There we go. And you're just going to snap it into place. There we go. And that's good, and it's nice and even. Just make sure everything's nice and tight. There we go. Not bad at all. Yep. So we're going to move on to our next part, is setting up our work area for the actual board itself. So there's our little board in there. And I did test this out to make sure that it also was working just fine, and it is. The overall quality of these boards is pretty nice. I'm not too concerned about anything going awry with it. It's pretty simple and standard here. So it is pretty small. That's my little iPhone there. So making sure that we're just trying to touch the edges and make sure everything's lined up. So we're going to have a ribbon go from the bottom board to the top, and we're going to mount it to our screws here. And we can zoom in so you guys get a good look at that part. And we're going to need to open that up. And that one's already open. So there's our power right there. So power in. So both will power the system regardless of which plug you use. So top or bottom doesn't matter. So let's put these screws in real quick. As I said, you put them both in finger tight, and then you can go back and just tighten them up a bit. You don't want anything to wiggle around, especially if it's in going to be put into a case. There we go. Put in that bottom one. Nice and easy. There we go. And our fourth one. And we're just going to tighten them up just a touch. Dut. Dut. Yep. And yes. So we got that. So now we're going to put in our SD card, my micro SD card in now, because otherwise it's going to be kind of awkward putting it in later. And it is going to go right underneath where those two, where the ribbon cable's gonna be. For a moment there when I first got it, I completely forgot where you plug in your SD card, and I was like, oh no, do I need a dongle? But no, it goes right there, right underneath. So it's gonna stick out a little bit. You don't push it in or anything. There's no like little like switchiness to it. So that's all seated, and it already has the OS in it. So now let's put in that little ribbon cable, and that's gonna have the two boards talk to each other. So we're gonna make sure that yes, that is open. So that is what it looks like open, and that's what it looks like closed. But we need it open. And easier said than done. There we go. And we're going to make sure that all the contacts make contact with the exposed wires, and that they're seated in evenly. So it takes a little wiggling. This one's trickier than the display one. And we'll push it into place. Is that set? You know, make sure that that is all the way in, and line it up. And a nice satisfying, yep, we got it. Nice little, I don't know, just pushing those in is very satisfying. So we're going to angle it up just to make sure that those don't close on us. And this is probably one of the trickiest parts of setting up the whole thing, is getting this ribbon cord just to stop popping out when you're trying to snap it into place. It's going to do that a couple times here. And you want to make sure that it's seated evenly and that everything has making contact, because otherwise you'll run into really strange issues with it if it's not put in evenly. And it looks like we're good here. Yep. And so we just have a few more steps to do before we're almost completely set. So as I mentioned earlier, we do have a pair of the heat sinks. They're specially sized for the processor, and then the little RAM chip. And the little sticker on the back of those, so it already has the cooling, like the little compound on it. So it's like a glue compound. And peeling off the little protective film is very tricky. That's what I'm trying to peel off right now. And it's leaving little bits of residue you got to pick off because you want it all on there evenly. And we'll pick. And there we go for the processor. You want to line it up because this is going to help get the heat away from your processor when you're playing all those video games. So many games. And there we go for our little RAM chip. And that's 1 gig. Pretty decent for what we need to do, especially when you think about the hardware that went into a lot of the original systems. And if we look at that, there's a lot of little bits of dust and whatnot in there. So let's get that out of there. We don't want that in there. So there's our little can of air. Make sure we get it all out. And there we go. And always good to have some can of air on hand to get all the little debris out of there. Just a little scan over. So now we're gonna set, so ideally you just need to worry about the power and the ground. So my power is going to be the red wire, so that's going to send power to the screen. And we're going to put that, is the green the clock, or is the yellow the clock? And then the black wire is going to be my ground wire. So the most important ones to worry about right now are the red and the black. So red is my power, and black is my ground. Yeah. I guess I should have paid attention when I double checked, but everything works, so or is yellow my clock? Oh, wow. So those are going to be the pins that we're going to connect to here. So I'm just flipping over so I can put them on a little bit easier. So we're going to start off with the power, which is our bottom one. And we're going to jiggle around because the cables are bound together just to keep things neat and tidy. But it is awkward to kind of organize them to seat them in. Struggling away off camera here. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. And there's our ground wire. As I said, those are the only two you really need to worry about if you're just doing a simple Raspberry Pi setup that I'm doing here. There we go. But you can put the other wires in for prosperity, I suppose. As I said, one of them's a clock and one of them's something. I forgot. And our green wire is gonna go, yup, right there. And it looks like the pin's bent. I assure you, the pins are not bent. It's just a strange angle that I'm filming at. Everything's nice and straight. That one can be pushed in a little bit more, but we're in good shape. I'm just gonna make sure everything's seated correct. And there we go. Not too bad here. So I think, is that everything? I believe we have everything hooked up that we need to hook up. So it's time to give it the smoke test, yeah? So we're just gonna get a little cradle so I can prop it up. So we're gonna need to hook up some power. And as I said, you can hook up either the top or bottom one, doesn't matter. So we're gonna unwind that, hook it up to the PC because it's right next to me. And make sure that everything is correct direction. There we go. Perfect. There we go. We got little blinking lights. We don't need it to do that quite yet. And we just want to make sure that the area is clear so we can actually put this up without it falling over. Ah, yes. And we never know if we need the little keyboard here. And probably need to get the controller out too. The controller is a bit easier to use than the little keyboard. So we're going to wrestle with that packaging. When I put it around here somewhere. Trying to get it out. There you are. Try to get it out of all that packaging, and we're just going to hook that up too. And there's not going to be any compatibility issues. That's all very streamlined and user-friendly, so we're not going to have to fiddle around with any command lines or setup or drivers. And I think now we're finally set. And we just kind of want that propped up a bit. And let's power it on there. So at this point, if you saw all those streaking lines, that means you have an issue, but when you get like the little colored cube, you're all good to go. So here we have the Retropie with the little logo. And that little lightning bolt at the top means it's thinking. So I turn off the screen so you can see how bright it is. The display's nice and bright. And remember, there is that little protective peely film on the top of it, so there's some distortion from it. So it's just going through its booting process and checking everything. And we're all getting a whole bunch of OKs here, and that's what we want to see. And there are no games on this system yet. We're gonna have to do that I tried to do it over the network, but the wireless connectivity, I'm having some issues with that. So I literally had to connect this directly to the my laptop right next to it. So we're just gonna take a look at our little settings screen here. And it does have wireless and Bluetooth. The Bluetooth is mainly for just using Bluetooth controllers. Right now I couldn't find any settings or drivers to use like a Bluetooth speaker with the system, which I was a little disappointed about. I would have liked to use a Bluetooth like little boombox. So here's our wireless, and from there you just go on. As I said, I had issues with my wireless, so I'm just gonna have that all set up directly with the PC. But so you see the background changed a little bit because I had to wait a day to get my case to go this in. So just for the last part of my setup, I just got a little very simple case. This is kind of temporary. I just want like all those exposed circuits and stuff, I want them protected. So I just got the basic case that houses the screen and the board together. And I like that this back part, it pops on and off, so you have access to those little pins. Because right now, if I want to hook it up to a screen other than the 7-inch, I actually have to unplug the power that goes to the screen so that it'll just talk to a monitor instead of the screen. That's a setting that I just need to fiddle with still, so it's just laziness on my part. But we want to get everything seated correctly and have lots of awkward angles here. We want to tuck in our wires. Yeah, just a little bit of fiddling here. And those are the little footies you see at the bottom there, so that it stands. Not quite lined up. And you see there is cutouts for everything. So for the 4 USB ports, the Ethernet, and the HDMI, and then the audio and video. And that looks like it's all lined up, so we want to get those. Oh, where did my screws go? Oh, I already took them out. They're over here. They're over here, so you want to get those in before anything shifts and doesn't fit quite right. So once again, just kind of put them in finger tight and then come back and tighten them up a bit. There we go. And let's get that one in. Tighten it a little bit. As I said, you want to wiggle a little bit to get it realigned. Let's try the other one. There we go. It's always nice to have a decent set of screwdrivers, especially for electronics. And we'll tighten that up a bit. Yeah, there we go. So really, we're coming to the end of this project, and as you can see, it only took about 30 minutes to get everything put together and seated. It could probably be put in within like 15 minutes if you really have everything laid out nice. So we'll take a look, make sure everything's lined up, and it's looking good. Very nice here. So that was pretty much the end of my little project. I guess I can make some future videos about it. I guess just the reason why I did this, because other than it being a fun project, is to be able to play fan translated Japanese games that you can't really get in the States. So it's going to be a really nice little project for that. And just a really nice, just a neat little gadget to have around. Wipe off all the smears. And it's just cool to say that you build a little microcomputer. Everything is all set up. As I said, that's right now when I'm lazy, I just unplug that if I need to hook it up to a large screen. Yeah, pretty good. And we're all set. So thank you very much, guys, and I hope that you'll see another one of my videos sometime. Have a good one.